Of all the set plays run throughout this past NBA season, there was one that caught my eye and stood out more than the rest, both because of how popular it is and because of its effectiveness, so let's get into the basic action. The play starts with a double stagger, and typically that first screener is going to be your shooter or scorer, and usually when you see a double stagger like this, Wiggins would be the shooter running off of it, but in this play, Wiggins actually cuts through the middle of the two screens, and then that first screener is going to flip around and use that pin down to look for a shot. Steph nails it here, and that's the basic concept, but I think Tyus Jones actually sniffed this one out and jumped out to Looney's screen, expecting Steph to come over it, so Looney flips the angle of it so Steph can drift to the wing, and that's great improv. Here's another basic example. You have either a great shooter or a star player, Brunson as that first screener, OG cuts through the middle of the stagger, and this time that cuts wide open for a dunk, but the reason he's wide open here is because of the personnel being used. The Pistons are doing everything in their power to keep their elite perimeter defender glued to Jalen Brunson, so Asar's not going to want to switch this, and on top of that, the second screener is Cat, whose shooting gravity pulls Tobias Harris out of the paint. He definitely doesn't want to help off, so Cade's left alone to deal with this action, and he's not able to get through it here. So it's hard to cover both that cut through the middle and stay attached to the star player. The Pacers do a nice job helping on OG's cut here, but just that little step by Nesmith to help gives Brunson a head start on him, and now he can curl and hit the floater, but it looks like Robinson might have also been open on the lob, and the other thing I like about this play is that OG cutting through turns this into an empty corner pick and roll when Brunson catches it, and in an empty pick and roll coming to the middle, there's really nobody left to tag that roll man, and the drop big is just left in a tough spot. And the Knicks actually have a nice variation of this play to take advantage of that empty corner. Here, it's McHale who cuts through to clear the corner, but instead of Brunson flipping around and coming off the pin down, he's going to put on an acting job like he's screening for the wing, and then all of a sudden sprint into this middle zoom action. He gets the step on Nesmith, and notice that empty corner now, giving him all this space, no gap defenders, and guarding Brunson one-on-one, especially in this position, is not going to go well. Another wrinkle in that variation is this little flare set by Hart that Cat comes off of after the handoff. This is a good way to keep Turner occupied and totally clear that side for a Brunson ISO. And we'll see that concept again here. OG cuts, Brunson comes off the handoff, and when Mitch is the handoff guy, it's more of a back screen than a flare, but again, look at all the space for Brunson. All of this is just designed to get one of the best ISO players alive, one-on-one on an island, and it's the same result. As with any play, spacing and execution are really important, and here Boston has the personnel to switch on the initial cut. Brown does a nice job staying attached, but then instead of that flare being set for Hart looks to re-screen, and Cat is, trying to get a seal in kind of an awkward spot, and then you have Porzingis giving Hart the Ben Simmons treatment, so Brunson thinks he'll be open, but Tatum just sneaks over to gamble on that pass, knowing KP has the rim protected, so the execution was definitely off there, not executing that flare. Let's take a look at a few more variations, and the Thunder run one of my favorites here. Joe's the first screener, and again we see the effect of this cut, distracting Scottie Pippen Jr. for just a split second while Joe comes off the pin down, but instead of sitting behind this screen like Steph did or curling it like Brunson, Joe continues to run all the way for the handoff from Hartenstein, and now there's another screen. Pippen Jr.'s officially given up, and OKC's best shooter is wide open. The Warriors occasionally run this play with the passer closer to the baseline rather than on the wing, and I actually think the Lakers recognize it here, yet when LeBron shoots this gap to cover the cut, we see that space created between Schroeder and Reeves, and even though Reeves can go under on Schroeder, he's out of position on this rescreen. The Lakers have to switch at this point, and now it's an easy duck in against the mismatch. Now this next one's a different setup. Instead of having those staggered screens to start, TJD dribbles over, and this looks like the beginning of a Zoom or Chicago action with the pin down into a handoff, but here's that cut again from Draymond. This time it's Vincent splitting this little gap. That gets Steph separation from his man, and now he can come off the handoff with a defender on his hip, and he gets a decent look. So I thought that was a nice way to use this twirl concept in a bit of a different setup. You can tell the Warriors love this play, and this time they use Steph as the cutter, and somehow he's left wide open for a layup. How did they lose Steph Curry from one cut? But if you're Max Christie guarding Steph Curry and you see staggered screens, you better believe he's ready to all-out sprint to chase Steph around these, so he's not expecting this cut at all. Steph dusts him, and Christie tries to call for a switch, but it's too late to communicate, and the fear of Steph's movement shooting essentially created a layup for him, and it's smart by Steve Kerr to use him as both the cutter and the shooter in this set. I caught this one in Summer League. This is what I would call your standard stagger twirl action, instead of all our other examples with that that cutter going all the way through. Here he's used as a screener. This is that basic twirl action, and you get two going to the shooter, and our guy's open on the pop. Apologies for not knowing anyone's name, but I would wager a guess that all those actions I showed earlier were born from this play right here. But anyways, I hope you guys can see that this action can be used in a variety of different ways with different personnel in different spots, with variations flowing into other actions, with different setups, and overall, I hope you learned just a little bit about basketball. Thanks for watching.